A driving offense points system proposed for unscrupulous taxi drivers. Jury in the body in cement murder trial dismissed because the judge is ill. And Malaysian police raid Najib Razak's house and other properties.
Hello, good evening. Cabbies may in future have their license suspended for 3 months if they repeatedly provide poor services, including overcharging. The taxi trade is being consulted on the proposed penalties. Discussions are underway on how to improve services provided by the city's 18,000 taxis, not through incentives but punishments. The government-appointed Committee on Taxi Service Quality has floated the idea of increasing penalties for unscrupulous cabbies. Under a proposed driving offence points system, cabbies will be given demerit points if they overcharge their passengers or deliberately take a longer route than required. Also 10 demerit points for meter tampering and 5 points for not giving sufficient change. An accumulation of 15 demerit points within 2 years will lead to a 3-month suspension of the driver's license and 6 months for repeated offenders. Committee member and lawmaker Jeremy Tam supports the proposed penalties but thinks some scenarios are debatable. He said if a driver doesn't have enough change for the passenger, then that won't necessarily be a service issue. The proposal will soon be discussed in the Legislative Council. Another lawmaker thinks it's also worth fitting taxis with security cameras.
A particular association has done about a year ago with about 40 or 50 taxis. They have received no complaint from passengers, no complaint from taxi drivers, and did not violate the privacy ordinance. All right, so that's a good test case.
Currently, passengers can take their complaints to the Transport Advisory Committee. The committee's latest annual report noted more than 10,300 complaints about taxi services in 2016, almost half of all public transport complaints.
Medical reasons have forced a High Court judge to skip a murder trial. In fact, he won't be able to return to work for some time. So the 7-member jury was today dismissed 37 days into the trial. Caleb Bloom reports.
The case centers on 3 unemployed men accused of killing a 28-year-old man in the Tsuen Wan industrial building and burying his body in cement in 2016. High Court Judge Patrick Lee skipped today's hearing. Lee has been with the judiciary for around 25 years. The court didn't name the medical condition he is suffering from, but said he needs time for treatment, so he won't be able to hear the case in the short run. Another judge then dismissed the 7-member jury. The jurors were ordered not to discuss the case with anyone. They're also barred from talking about it on social media.
In response to media inquiries, the judiciary said the case will be relisted according to established procedures, as that depends on a number of factors such as the lawyer's schedules, so no word yet on when that will be.
Legislator James To, who's a lawyer by profession, said if the prosecution presses on with the case, a new jury will have to go through all the evidence again. He thinks that may impact the trial if a witness becomes unavailable during the new hearing. Caleb Loong, TVB News.
Jurors have been deliberating for more than 17 hours and still no verdict for 5 men charged in relation to the 2016 Mongkok riot case. Hong Kong Indigenous' Edward Leung earlier admitted to 1 count of assaulting a police officer in the due execution of duty. But he maintains his innocence on 2 counts of rioting and another of incitement to riot. 4 other defendants in the same case all pleaded not guilty to charges of riot and unlawful assembly. The court reconvened this afternoon when jurors asked if there is a specific legal explanation for the term intention. The judge said intention may not mean motive. An example given was that a person may intend to kill a family member in poor health with the motive to put the relative out of misery.
Elsewhere, Malaysian police have searched former Prime Minister Najib Razak's home and other places linked to him in connection with a multi-billion-dollar scandal. Officers swooped down on Najib's home last night. Thousands of residents watched the drama unfold as news outlets streamed it on live TV. Najib's lawyers claim no documents were seized, but handbags and other personal items were. The extraordinary scenario has rocked the country before its May 9th general election that Najib was expected to win. Authorities allege that more than $4.5 billion was siphoned off from the I-Malaysia Development Berhad State Fund. They believe the fraud was orchestrated by a financier with close ties to the Najib and his family.
Vice Premier Liu He told former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger China is proactively seeking resolutions to the trade dispute between the two countries. Liu is in Washington with other senior Chinese officials for a second round of negotiations to try to avoid a trade war. And earlier this week, U.S. President Donald Trump appeared to extend an olive branch by pledging to help telecommunications equipment maker ZTE to get back into business. The Chinese company was banned from doing business with U.S. companies for 7 years because it dealt with Iran and North Korea in violation of U.S. sanctions. But Trump tweeted that he wanted to help keep ZTE afloat. That didn't sit well in the American intelligence community.
We, the FBI, remain deeply concerned that any company beholden to foreign governments that don't share our values are not companies that we want to be gaining positions of power inside our telecommunications network. That gives them the capacity to maliciously modify or steal information. That gives them the capacity to conduct undetected espionage. That gives them the capacity to exert pressure or control.
The foreign ministers of China and France reiterated the two countries' commitment to the Iran nuclear deal despite U.S. President Donald Trump's determination to kill it off. The proclamations by Wang Yi and Jean-Yves Le Drian came a day after the foreign ministers from France, Britain, Germany and the European Union held talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif. All parties agreed to continue working to save the agreement. The deal is meant to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. The U.S. pulled out of the pact last week and promised to impose tough economic sanctions on Iran.
Japanese newspaper Asahi is reporting that the United States has demanded North Korea ship some nuclear warheads and intercontinental ballistic missile and other nuclear material overseas within 6 months. It also says that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told North Korean leader Kim Jong-un that Washington may remove Pyongyang from a list of state sponsors of terrorism if those items are shipped out. Now, this comes as a planned summit between Kim and U.S. President Donald Trump on June 12th is in jeopardy. Pyongyang threatened to pull out of the talks after U.S. and South Korean joint military drills began on Monday. But Trump says Pyongyang has not said anything directly to the U.S.
We haven't been notified at all. We'll have to see.
Thanks, guys.
We haven't seen anything. We haven't heard anything. We will see what happens.
Will you stop the
Whatever it is.
Well, the leaders of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee say they agree that Russia interfered with the 2016 presidential election campaign to boost Donald Trump's chances of winning. Separately, the Senate Judiciary Committee released more than 2,000 pages of interview transcripts and other documents related to an interview it had with the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Alan Booknear reports.
Following a meeting with former Obama administration officials, the Senate Intelligence Committee said it stands behind a 2017 assessment by U.S. intelligence agencies that Russia intervened in the 2016 election campaign to hurt Hillary Clinton and help Donald Trump.
They also used social media in ways that were unprecedented and scanned or intervened in our electoral systems. And this needs to be a higher priority of both the White House and this Congress to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I also firmly believe that this effort is not over, that it continues to this very day, where the Russians are trying to sow the seeds of discontent in our society.
The committee's conclusion is in contrast to an earlier House intelligence conclusion. Members agreed that the Russian interference was meant to harm Clinton, but they couldn't agree that it was meant to help Trump. Meanwhile, the Senate Judiciary Committee released transcripts of a closed-door session it had with Donald Trump Jr. It was about a meeting at Trump Tower that he attended with the expectation of receiving compromising information from Russians about his father's opponent, Democrat Hillary Clinton.
The meeting is really significant because it was sort of the first known encounter during the course of the campaign involving members of the president's inner circle, in this case, his son-in-law, and his campaign chairman, and Russians.
The notes show Trump Jr. struck an unapologetic tone before the committee. He said the meeting with the Russians went nowhere, but he felt he had to listen. Alan Bookniat, TVB News.
And still ahead tonight. A motion to unseat lawmaker Cheng Chung-tai fails to get the required support at LegCo. The latest about royal wedding mania in the UK. And the Chinese double amputee sets a new record in climbing the world's tallest peak.
Welcome back to TVB News. The Legislative Council has rejected a motion to unseat lawmaker Cheng Chung-tai. In a vote this afternoon, the result came out as 39 for and 25 against, which means the motion failed to obtain the support of 2/3 of the lawmakers present. The motion was put forward by Paul Tse over Chung turning the national and Hong Kong flag replicas upside down inside the LegCo chamber in 2016. Pro-establishment members said this showed Chang did not respect the flags and would not uphold the basic law.
Some gold coins and jewelry went missing after a house in Repulse Bay was broken into. The house belongs to the family of the late founder of New World Development, Chen Yutong. Police suspect the intruder gained access to the mansion's grounds near the swimming pool by the hillside. It was the second time in less than 2 years that the house was burgled. Items were taken from the bedroom of Chen Yutong's wife. There was no one in the room at the time of the crime, and officers have been searching the nearby area with police dogs since they received a report about the burglary at around 5 a.m.
Residents of Wah Fu estate, that is, say authorities are taking too long to fulfill their promise of redeveloping their homes. But the government's plans to relocate them during the redevelopment have met resistance from residents of a nearby private housing estate. Wenna Wong reports.
A meeting at the Town Planning Board this morning where Wah Fu estate residents are getting impatient. Consultations and more consultations. This is all meaningless, said this resident. Wang Choi Lap, who runs a concern group for the redevelopment, says it's been 4 years since the government first announced the plan. It's too slow. Everything from the estate's housing structure to transportation in the area need to be updated now. In the 2014 policy address, the government proposed redeveloping the 50-year-old public housing estate. It would also rezone 5 plots of nearby greenbelt land into residential sites, some of which would be used to relocate Wah Fu residents. In total, the project is expected to provide around 21,000 units and house an estimated 61,000 people. But the proposal isn't going as smoothly as hoped. Out of the 4,000 consultation submissions the board received, as much as 3,000 were against the plan. For example, residents of the nearby private estate Chi Fu Fa Yun want 2 of the sites to be left untouched.
We do not object to the redevelopment of Wah Fu estate, but out of the 5 proposed rehousing sites, we consider that 2 sites were not suitable for rehousing. We consider there are eco and heritage value, and they are in Greenbelt area.
They're now urging the government to consider just using the remaining 3 plots of land instead. Winna Wong, TVB News.
Just 2 days from when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle tied a knot, and there's drama over whether Markle's father can walk her down the aisle. Sonia Artero has more on that, plus royal wedding mania.
The choir at St. George's Chapel is hard at work practicing for Saturday's royal wedding at Windsor Castle. The 12 selected are thrilled to have the honor of singing in front of a global audience of millions.
I'm really excited. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Really excited because I'm really lucky because not many people get to sing in such a special event.
But this special occasion may be tarnished over a royal wedding drama. The bride's father, Thomas Markle, may not be able to walk Meghan down the aisle because he suffered a heart attack and needed surgery. His neighbors in Mexico confirmed he's been sick.
He's been reclusive for a long time and very sickly.
And I don't think he ever imagined he'd be the father-in-law of Prince Harry. But what a wonderful opportunity for him. And I hope he takes advantage of it and gets to go to England more often.
The 73-year-old reportedly received stent surgery yesterday to get blood flowing to clogged arteries. So recovery time may rule out a lengthy trip to England. Even though the bride's parents are divorced, Markle's mother will be present for the wedding. But it's the presence of tens of thousands of royal fans that have authorities beefing up security.
There are a lot of officers involved in the operation. Some you'll see, some you won't see. The ones you see, some will be armed, some won't be armed.
The team in charge of wedding flowers aims to please.
It's going to look incredible in the chapel. The designs are purposely going to be very reflective of the gardens and the great park around us.
Everybody is working very hard behind the scenes to deliver on this and to make it really a special occasion.
One Windsor business is taking royal wedding mania to the extreme.
We're making a Meg Harry Chino as part of our celebration for the royal wedding, and this is made by a machine which prints on top of a cappuccino Harry and Meghan's portrait and looks absolutely fantastic.
They're also serving up mini wedding cakes with the same flavors the royal couple chose. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
A 69-year-old double amputee from China set a new world record by being the first to climb Mount Everest from the Nepalese side. Xia Boyu is not the first double amputee to reach Everest's peak, but he is the oldest. This was his 5th and only successful attempt at conquering the tallest peak in the world. He first tried to reach the top in 1975, but lost both his legs in the process due to frostbite. His subsequent attempts in 2014, 2015 and 2016 also failed. The only other double amputee to have conquered Everest was Mark Inglis from New Zealand in 2006 from the peak's Tibetan side. More than 340 foreign climbers are attempting to climb Everest this month. I'm happy you made it in the end, though.
Yeah, happy ending indeed.
And that's the news.
Thanks for joining us.